Yeah, I go.
I really appreciate it. It's
It's kind of late. Let's see.
Judy Miller.
10 to 11.
Thank you. I know it's late, so I'll try to be brief, and I'll try to speak slowly. I'm Eric Fox. That's, for the record, it's ERIC-FOX. And I make my living as a contractor in the oil and gas industry. As an Alaskan and as a Mammoth Corporation shareholder, I urge you to move forward on the proposed 2012-2017 Outer Continental Shelf OCS oil and gas lease program. The North Slope and offshore development have been studied significantly. It is one of the best understood energy options in the country, if not the world. We must expect and demand strong environmental safeguards during exploration and production in the region, and I'm confident the industry will do this. I've worked closely with Shell in the past, and their safeguards for spill prevention and response are second to none. In fact, Shell has committed to unprecedented provisions for prevention and spill response. These provisions go much further than what the law requires. It is also important to remember that Alaska OCS is hundreds of feet deep, not thousands as many wells in the Gulf Coast. Wells in the Gulf are far more intricate than in the shallow water, lower stress wells in the Beaufort and Chukchi seas. However, vigilance is clear as well control and oil spill prevention systems have been studied and made better with lessons learned from the Deepwater Horizon tragedy. Before I'm out of time, I don't have this written down, but I feel compelled to say this. It feels as though the environmental groups, environmentalists, are hijacking the moral high ground and trying to represent the indigenous peoples. I am one of those indigenous people, and I very much do support OCS development. The truth is, our people are suffering out in rural Alaska right now, and it's not because they don't have enough food to hunt and fish. It's because they can't afford a $10 gallon of milk or a $9 gallon of home heating fuel. I hear horror stories of people having to leave their homes and huddle under different homes, maybe 3 families gathering, in order to make ends meet because the cost of living in rural Alaska is so high. So when I hear this about, we don't need to do this because we're trying to protect our people, that's not the truth. The truth is there's mass exodus out of rural Alaska right now into the cities because they can't afford to be out there. This type of development, these type of job opportunities that this would allow people to still live a subsistence lifestyle, but yet pay good incomes from good jobs. So with that, I'll go ahead and close. I have much more to say, but I thank you for your time.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Marley Hall. It's M-A-R-L-E-A-N-N-A. Sorry, I say that fast. I was born and raised and have lived in Alaska my entire life. I went to school here, I have a family here, I have a job here for now. First, I just want to say that I support BOEM moving forward with the 2012-2017 leasing program. America is an energy-consuming nation. Every barrel of oil we don't produce domestically, we must import, sending money overseas and increasing our trade deficit. We have domestic oil in Alaska and in the lower 48. In addition to oil, we have natural gas. We as Alaskans will benefit from a natural gas line, not only as a result of well-paying jobs, but also as energy users. The cost of heating a home, as Eric just mentioned, or business in Alaska is not going away, just the same the cost of energy in the rest of the U.S. is not going away. You've already been told about the large quantity of America's energy resources, but I'll remind you of Alaska's anyway. Our OCS is estimated to have 27 billion barrels of oil and 132 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. We need to develop our resources while we work toward alternative energy. Alaskans do it right. Americans can too. OCS leasing should move forward in an efficient manner and should include Cook Inlet and the Beaufort and Chukchi Seas. Thank you very much.
Dry Forest, Nevada. Dry Forest, Nevada. Tom Hendricks. You win.
He talked. Oh, I wonder if they put more than one in there.
Keith Silver. Yeah. Yeah. There's Keith Silver, and after Mr. Silver, Carl Portman.
Good evening, my name is Keith Silver, for the record, Keithsilver. I own the Silver Agency and do not work for an oil or oil field service company. I am, however, a long-term resident of Alaska, and as such have an interest in OCS leasing. This is approximately the 8th time I have testified on OCS issues. It is vital that the leasing programs continue in an efficient manner and must not further exclude areas offshore Alaska from responsible oil and gas development. The Alaska OCS could produce 1 to 2 million barrels per day, boosting current U.S. production by 20 to 40%. At today's oil prices, slashing imports that much would reduce the nation's trade deficit up to $65.7 billion a year. Given our current deficit, a total of 193 billion in government revenue would be generated through the year 2057 if oil averages only $65 a barrel, with 167 billion to the federal government, 15 billion to the state of Alaska, 4 billion to local Alaska governments, and 6.5 billion to other state governments. Should you elect not to hold these sales, you are then exporting pollution to third world countries. For every barrel of oil America refuses to develop domestically, it will have little choice but to import an equal amount from overseas, where different environmental standards often apply. Sharing federal royalty payments from production in federal waters with coastal states and local communities, as is done in other jurisdictions in the United States, is critical as it significantly benefits local governments, promotes national economic interests, and generates additional new federal revenues by increasing state and local participation. Such sharing facilitates a closer partnership among federal, state, and local agencies. While we strive to develop renewable sources of energy, we still rely on oil and gas, natural gas for transportation, electricity, manufacturing, consumer goods, and other uses that are part of our everyday lives. Even more, our economy depends on the millions of jobs and billions in revenues offshore production generates. I wanted to compliment you folks for moving to this venue. This is significantly better than your other venue. And I have to echo Jason Bruni's comments with respect to the constantly changing way we do our testimony. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Carl Portman, and I am here speaking on my own behalf to support a robust 2012 to 2017 offshore oil and gas leasing program. I urge BOEM to include in this 5-year program lease sales in the Chukchi and Beaufort Seas as well as Cook Inlet. While I recognize data gaps exist in the Arctic, there will always be a need for research. Significant data gaps existed when the North Slope exploration commenced more than 40 years ago. As exploration and development occurred, so did research and studies. Today, the North Slope and the offshore are now perhaps the most studied energy basins in America. The federal government has spent more than $300 million on studies in Alaska, and in the past decade, the former Minerals Management Service itself funded over 250 studies here, with the majority of those in the Beaufort and Chukchi seas. It is important to note that not all questions regarding oil and gas development in the Arctic can be answered. Not all risk can be eliminated. If the federal government does insist that every concern and risk be eliminated in offshore development, then it must be prepared to import virtually all of the oil it will require to meet future needs. It must then also accept the consequences of a much heavier reliance on foreign oil, including soaring trade deficits, a weaker and more vulnerable economy, higher unemployment, and compromised national security. Put another way, failure to move forward with the OCS development in Alaska will put our economy at risk, as well as national security. I strongly believe Alaska can and should move forward in a responsible manner to harness the immense energy resources in the Arctic. Doing so would generate thousands of new high-paying jobs throughout virtually all 50 states, including steel and pipe manufacturers in the Midwest, shipping on the coast, advanced computer technology in California and Seattle, and union labor for pipeline construction and maintenance. OCS development will also generate billions of dollars in much-needed government revenues. I encourage BOEM to move forward with the proposed 5-year program, including the Alaska lease sales. Thank you.
After Michael, Heidi Nelson. Heidi, are you here? Go ahead, Mike.
Good evening, or is it almost good morning by now? My name is Michael Levine. That's Levine. I'm Pacific Senior Counsel for Oceana, based in Juneau, Alaska. And first, Dr. Kendall, Mr. Lohman, everyone, thank you for holding this hearing, for staying to hear us all out, and in particular, thank you to our court reporter for taking notes and typing what we're saying. I'd like to just take us back a step, and actually I should begin by saying I will endeavor to talk as slowly as I am able. I'm not going to leave you my notes, but I hope that I will talk slowly enough for you to be able to capture at least the themes that I say. But I'd like to take us back just a step. We're here today talking about our oceans and about decisions that affect them. The oceans and the oil under them are public resources. I could never hope to speak as eloquently about the oceans, the Chukchi and the Beaufort Seas, as those who live along them and depend on their resources, nor could I hope to speak about the value of the resources to companies, as well as those who work for those companies. I can, though, speak to our obligations and to your obligations as our government representatives. We Alaskans need energy, we need clean energy and healthy oceans, and rather than sound bites or baseless promises, we should have a real conversation about how to get there. We all own the oil that's under the oceans, and it's your job as BOEM or the Department of the Interior or Minerals Management Service to be stewards of those oceans and to managers of those resources. Your responsibilities extend beyond just regulating an industry. You must make decisions about whether activities should occur and under what conditions. And you must ensure that if they do occur, we get fair value for what we own. It is not necessarily true that benefits that accrue to oil companies, to multinational oil companies, are good for Alaskans and all Americans. But it's your job to balance the benefits that might accrue from oil development against the risks that might occur there. To that end, we appreciate some of the changes and steps forward. As I said, these public hearings and your commitment to listening to us and hearing us out is a big step forward. We appreciate the changes in the agency structure and its name. And we appreciate the attention to response capacity that this administration appears to be paying. Overall, and mostly we appreciate the open door that Dr. Kendall, you have shown to us over the last year or so. You'll forgive, however, our skepticism and our worries. Despite these stated commitments, we are still seeing decisions to move forward in the absence of basic science and preparedness. The USGS study demonstrated significant gaps in our understanding of the oceans. It is true that there's been a significant effort to conduct targeted scientific studies. Those studies, however, don't provide us a sufficient baseline from which to actually understand the impacts of the activities your agency is approving. Secondly, there's no proven demonstrated response capacity. As it was stated earlier, the last test of these response capacity was in 2000, and it was a failure. Shell proposes to rely on a containment system, or a well capping system rather, that the company itself rejected 2 times in the last couple of years, and a containment dome that has neither been built nor tested. Nonetheless, in the face of those scientific gaps and failure to prove response, your agency reaffirmed Lease Sale 193, saying that it didn't need any of those science that it admitted it didn't have. The agency has also approved exploration plans despite failure to approve spill response plans or require demonstrated capacity. And now the agency has established, as has been mentioned earlier, changing procedures for public hearings and comment periods that run the Saturday after Thanksgiving, for example. I have read the proposed plan. I read quickly. I've not yet made my way through the programmatic EIS. We request that the deadline for comments be consolidated so that we only have to participate once and our constituents and public can hear. And finally, I will sum up quickly to say, in light of that skepticism, we request that you formalize the stated commitments you've made to conduct better science, to require preparedness, and to more narrowly target lease sales. If you're going to hold lease sales, make those commitments specific in the plan, require science before they're held, demonstrated capacity, and the identification and protection of important areas.
Catherine Hicks. Susan testified at these meetings. Rosemary. Somebody just said they testified 8 times. How many times?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. Okay. What's that?
My name is Rosemary Adomarok, ROSEMARY-AHTUANGARUAK. I live on the Arctic Coast. I live in Barrow. I spent 24 years in Noxit. I went to the village to become a community health aide, and I speak from that spot. As community health aide, I learned how to do a physical exam and talk with the doctor over the phone, explain what we were feeling and seeing, and communicate these concerns. I was taught more information as I expanded my education. I went to the University of Washington to become a physician assistant. I brought this education back to my village. I took counts of my community. When I first started as a health aide, we had 323 people. At that time, only one person used medicine to help them breathe. When I went to school, there were more people. When I got done with the University of Washington, there were more people. When I stopped working in 2000, there were 75 people using medications on a regular basis to breathe. I've stated this over and over and over and over and over again for over 25 years. These concerns have only increased in numbers, and if I was still working in our village clinic, those numbers would have increased with my long-term participation of working with our people. We expressed concerns related to oil and gas development and increased oil and gas activities increasing and getting closer to the village. We expressed concerns to lack of protective measures put in place to help us with air quality issues and industry-controlled processes that allowed them to flare gas on a routine basis, especially when they were ramping up activities. We expressed concerns related to changes to subsistence uses, related to changes on land and offshore, near shore, and these changes impacted the way that we hunt. It impacted the way that we bring foods to our table. It impacted the way that we were able to be in our village or not, because we have to leave to go see the doctor in a hospital setting. And it brought our concerns into a wider basis. We've got many communities that have a wide variety of health concerns that have increased over years, but our state and our government has never taken a good look at those concerns. We have opportunities to get a health impact assessment, but it is a very weak assessment. We should be looking at what are the impacts. But our assessment will only give us a small assembly that there are some impacts. It's not going to quantitate it. Our databases for our Indian Health Services have not had stability in staffing to give us the adequacy of numbers in these databases to give us a good assessment. This process was halted with the oil and gas development when they stopped the lease-out process. But that information is vital. It needs to be included in this process. It needs to be completed for its assessment, and it needs to be expanded for understanding what it's not going to give us, because that information is very important. There are other areas in our state that also experience health impacts from spills. We should have learned from that process. We should have listened to those people that were impacted by their health, by those problems. Instead, when that village was exposed to the in situ burning, and they got sick instantly within minutes, people were rolling on the ground vomiting, we still have in situ burn plans as part of our spill response. We didn't notify that community prior to the burn, and yet they didn't notify our community when there was a spill in Prudhoe Bay and they used in situ burning. They didn't notify us when they were doing studies with bees that were going to assess areas that were impacted to a spill. And yet those bees were released, and our village was the closest to it. It didn't give the information they wanted, but that kind of stuff really needs to be worked well and done with the way that's not going to cause more concerns and impacts. This process, industry took thousands and millions of dollars to research for spill response, but they got things that they wanted in their process. We never got any input of whether or not that science should have been spent that way. They did things that would cover their asses. We have our lives on the line here. We didn't take control of that process and guide them in what should be studied. This process is bad. There should be no decels. Our government needs to take a leadership role in this process. We need that information from the Gulf. We need to be understanding what's causing those illnesses from those people and what's happening with those dispersants, because we have generations of people that are going to continue to live with those changes. Do not make that same mistake in the Arctic. Learn from this process, learn from the Gulf, learn from other countries that have also put studies before us and learned about health impacts that we did not do as a country. Learn from this process. Learn that we have very, very important rights, and impacts are occurring and causing us problems. They shouldn't happen, and it should be a no-brainer. We are not ready for more leases. We should make changes to the areas that are already leased in the offshore, because it shouldn't occur to be open like it has been, business as usual. Be a better agency, give us the words on paper that are going to guide this process, and get us the tools to enforce it, because we don't have that either. These are regulations on paper without the enforcement, without the protective measures, without the infrastructure. Thank you.
All from the heart.
Peter Maxey.
These guys who speak from the heart.
Peter Maxey, Petermacsey. I represent a 50-man fabrication company here in Anchorage. I do about 20% of my work in the oil field. I am in favor of this project. And truthfully, that's my testimony at this point to that, but I've got a couple observations. At the beginning of this, we had a nice little half-hour slideshow. I didn't see the slide where it showed what the economic benefits of this was. We showed all the detrimental things, and we saw all that kind of thing, but we never showed a slide of 2 or 3 people that rattled off really big numbers of things we should be concerned with, and I think that's a part of the environmental impact. The other thing was you rattled off all the agencies that provided science, but you never mentioned the millions of dollars that the oil field, the oil companies have spent gathering and then supplying you with science, and that was never mentioned. The other thing is, this is a big year for me. I turned 60 this year. 30 years ago, I got married, and the next month I went to Point Lay to build it was my second trip to finish the school there. At that time, they had just put the first sewer plant in the school, okay? And you people come from, I don't know what your backgrounds are, but if you've never lived somewhere where the whole village is on honey buckets, you pretty much know what's going on with people when you're hanging out with a bunch of people that are all using honey buckets, okay? And the honey buckets in Point Lay went to the front yard, and they went into a 55-gallon drum, And then they went to the edge of the village on a road on a big sled train, and then at the dead of winter, they hauled them out on the ice and they kicked them off on the ice. The North Slope, just from the oil field, is the most bondable borough in our state. They have water and sewer. They didn't get water and sewer in Barrow till the mid-'80s. In the mid-'90s, before the villages got water and sewer. Right now, Barrow is drilling wells in their backyard, but they're against drilling wells in their front yard. I have a problem with that. And so I guess I'm kind of confused about what they really want. So just take, and don't get me wrong, I'm also finally at an age where I have some history, and I appreciate the enthusiasm of young people and people in general that want to save the earth. But you know, we're still your neighbors. We still live here. We're still worried about our environment as well. We're growing children here. We're having recreating here. We're not looking to destroy the world, and we're tainted that way. So I hate to say it, but a little bit of history would go a long way to settle some of this excitement. Thank you.
Matt Moll. Matt. Matt. And after Matt, Lisa Parker. Lisa?
Hello, my name is Matthew Moll. That's M-A-T-T-H-E-W-M-O-L-L. I'm not really sure where to start with you all tonight. I think you all know it's a bad idea to drill here. You know it's a bad idea if you just stopped and thought about the kind of future you want to leave for your children, and if ravaging every last beautiful corner of the earth for every last drop of oil is the best way to get us to that future, then you quickly come to the answer of no, it's not. But I don't think I need to go any more into the specifics of why this is a bad idea. You've heard from enough people tonight. So I want to address a few things that I noticed tonight that made me kind of angry as a citizen. The first was the way this hearing was started. It was supposed to be a chance for us all to give public testimony, and instead we were lectured for a half hour about the processes and you know, the channels that they go through. We saw this very interesting PowerPoint slideshow where it laid out 3 large blocks of the early planning stages. You know, there was the lease sale and exploration, and then these little tiny boxes of production and decommissioning. Like, we're just supposed to think, oh yeah, you know, we're going to talk about this for a long time. You guys will have your regulators look at it, and don't worry, I'll have lots of time for public opinion. And then the actual drilling and the spills that may occur there and whatever else that happens, that's just an afterthought at the end. Well, let me tell you, looking at the track record of the industry and government, I don't trust the oil industry, and I don't trust government to regulate it. You said that the Deepwater Horizon disaster was, let me see, I wrote it down. It was a wake-up call, right? You changed all your policies after that. What was Exxon Valdez? Is that a wake-up call? Was when the new Carissa crashed off the coast of Oregon, was that a wake-up call? To be honest, there's no reason to trust any of this system at all, and I'm just feel like calling you guys out on your illegitimacy. I know you're going to do what you do anyways, and we all spoke tonight, and that was a lot of fun. But start using power more wisely, or you're going to lose it, is all I have to say.
Oh, brother.
And after Lisa, Andy Rogers.
Thank you. My name is Lisa. Parker is the last name, P-A-R-K-E-R. I want to thank you, and I particularly want to thank the reporter this evening. And maybe in the future have 2 reporters so that they can relieve each other. I am a lifelong resident of Alaska, and I currently reside on the Kenai Peninsula. I am employed by Apache Corporation, which has, you heard earlier from John Hendricks. During the testimony tonight, I had the opportunity to post on Facebook that my nephew had come and testified, and he is opposed to the lease sale. I am testifying in support of the lease sale, and it was interesting the number of comments that I got back from friends of mine who support the lease sale as I do, and friends of mine who support my nephew's position. And as I posted on Facebook, well, my nephew and I have disagreements on this, and he has his position and I have mine. I love my nephew dearly. As I said, I'm here in support of the proposed 5-year schedule, in particular the Cook Inlet lease sale 244. The decline of oil and gas production and the closure of the industrial facilities, the agri-nitrogen operations, and the warming and mothballing of the ConocoPhillips LNG facility those facilities were significant economic engines for the Kenai Peninsula, and their closures have had a significant adverse impact on individuals, communities, and businesses on the Kenai Peninsula. Today, 85% of the Rio Belt's power generation comes from natural gas. Natural gas also supports and heats many of our homes, businesses, and hospitals in South Central Alaska. Continued production of natural gas and oil is essential to our communities. In the past 2 years, there's been a resurgence of oil and gas activity and interest in Cook Inlet. There is interest as well as a need by all of us, businesses, individuals, and communities for leasing in Cook Inlet. The proposed lease sale 244 should be kept in the 5-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Andy Rogers. That's ANDYROGERS. I'm a lifelong Alaskan. I'm the Deputy Director of the Alaska Chamber of Commerce. And I speak tonight as the voice of hundreds of businesses across the state, representing tens of thousands of employees from literally every corner of Alaska. On their behalf, I encourage each of you and each of the organizations that you represent to do everything you can to make sure that Alaska's oil and gas resources, terrestrial and OCS, are developed responsibly and in a timely manner. I'd like to take the rest of my time to give a personal anecdote. It's in the mid-90s, I started a software company in Alaska. I've employed dozens of technologists, as many as 30 at a time, over that 15-year period. Many of them brought up from outside the state. I'm an importer of talented, sharp young minds. My wife and I were owners of the physical therapy clinic that employs her, Advanced Physical Therapy. Clinics in Anchorage, in Fairbanks, one in Wasilla, and starting next summer, one in Soldotna. It's a lot of sharp young technical minds, sharp young medical minds, and it's hard to get people. There's been no point over the course of my career where it was not a wise business move to pull stumps, head to Seattle, head to San Jose, Orlando, Atlanta. But this is where I'm from. God willing, this is where my kids will want to be. So I hear big numbers, and we've got them in this report. We've got them in other reports. We've got 250 million, I think I saw, in studies over the last 20 years. They sound very impressive. I hear stories of tens of thousands of jobs over a 50-year period. But the one that's important to me is I see 30, 40, 50-year career for my 5-year-old. Now they went to one of our company's Christmas parties tonight. I dropped them off. I came here, sat through a random selection process on a Friday night, a couple weeks before Christmas. They got a ride home. Kids and the wife are in bed. I thank you for your time. Sorry about your hands. You guys can do this better. Approve the leases. You gotta get your regulatory and permitting processes straight. And then by all means, provide the oversight to make sure that the oil companies, our resource extraction companies, are good stewards of the resources from my state. Thank you.
And after Ben, Rocky Day.
Hi, my name is Ben Moore, M-O-H-R, first name Benjamin, B-E-N-J-A-M-I-N. Not a whole lot new to say here tonight, but I would like to thank you all from the regulatory agencies for being here, especially those from the East Coast. It must be killing you at this point. I heard a lot of talk tonight about renewable energies, and I don't work in oil and gas. I work in hard rock mining. And so when I hear about renewable energies, I'm just so excited about all these people that I can imagine coming out to testify on behalf of Alaska's copper and gold and rare earth resources that we'd love to mine here. But, we've also been talking a lot about people tonight and the impacts that this type of lease sale may have on people. And I think it's important because every single Alaskan in this room benefits as a person from oil and gas in the state. And the advancement and hopefully the production of oil from the OCS will continue those benefits that we see. I would strongly support BOEM moving forward with the lease sales as proposed. And if I had to pick an option from the SEIS or from the PEIS, I know it's a little early for that, but I'd go with option number one. Let's go ahead and open up these lease sales. Let's see what we can do to continue a healthy and robust economy in Alaska. I'd love to continue my career here. I'd love to have my kids be able to grow up and have a future in this place as well. So thank you very much for your time. And again, I would just like to support the agencies moving forward with the plans as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Rocky Dibble. Patricia Gray. Deanne Hargrave.
Thank you all for hanging with us. Hardy Alaskans, you can congratulate yourselves for sticking with us, and I appreciate it. For the record, I'm Deanne Hargrave, D-E-A-N-N-E-H-A-R-G-R-A-V-E. I'll keep this brief. As a concerned Alaskan, I care about the well-being of our great state and the people who live here. I consider myself extremely fortunate to call Alaska my home. But in order for us to continue living and working in Alaska, we need to maintain our economic viability. One of the best ways for us to do this is to encourage responsible development of our state and surrounding seas. Our state government has done a good job of promoting oil and gas development. Oil and gas companies are ready to invest in Alaska and are lining up to. But we continue to face uncertainty with the federal permitting and leasing process. Until these permitting delays are improved, the future of Alaska and the U.S.'s economy will remain in jeopardy. I have confidence in the oil and gas companies who are working toward developing Arctic OCS and in my fellow Alaskans that we will not allow irresponsible development to occur in our treasured lands and seas. I encourage the federal government to listen to the Alaskans here today and continue to include Beaufort and Chukchi Sea leases in the 5-year plan and in future lease plans. Thank you.
Lindsay? Tom Ritter, Rutes, R-U-E-T-E-S. There is a term in NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, we call it a FONSI. You all have been the other kind of FONSI. And what was FONSI? Fonzie was cool.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. We have no further speakers.
Is there anyone who would like to speak?
My name is Doctor.
Okay, then Commissioner, get up here. I want to make sure no one gets missed.
No one left unheard.
How many deals besides just me? My name is Lux. Also Squash. I'm a clinker from Southeast Alaska. Anyways, they're
I'm sorry, could you spell your names for me?
Stewash. My grandfather Joe White gave that to me. Also Lux. I know I'm on the Athabascan line. I thank the Athabascan allowing me to be here. Believe me, I have to get permission for me to be here. I can't just, say, hey man, I'm a rich guy from so-and-so place there. I want to do this, I want to do that. You have to get that permission. I'm hoping for you people to get their permission. The man who started off with prayer, that's his land, Point Hope. He said, don't do it. Wonder how long our world will last if we don't drill for a whole 5 years. How did I survive long? How did my ancestors survive without this money that we're getting now, our current fund money? How did our ancestors survive? For 5 years, stop drilling. That's just a suggestion. How long, anyways, our ancestors survived without water a long time ago. But anyways, I heard my ancestors talk like that back home. They knew it's coming. How survive without oil there? But anyway, it's my interesting. What would happen if we never did this for 5 years? I'd be a lot healing. We might get blamed for starting a war because, well, it's all Alaska fault. They never drilled. Anyways, that's all I want to talk about there. I think my ancestors' philosophy, being with you people there, your ancestors there, hope you keep open mind to it. Thank you.
Sir, if there's any, would you mind, could you give the final blessing if there's no one else to speak? So anyone else wants to speak that we missed? In that case, sir, would you mind ending our session with a blessing? Would you mind ending the meeting with a blessing?
All I'd like to say is, Hashaganya, Kim Kau. Thank you for your day. Sheesh. Appreciate you people trying to understand us there. As you go back to your Washington, D.C. there, what the people had to say there. Hope you take it to your heart. That we need to survive. And that's why they had it. I'm proud of you people having this meeting, not hiding behind it. You came out open and said, hey, how can we help you? Appreciate it, Doctor. Hashimoon, you can't recall. Sheesh, thank you for today. I'm just a beautiful person trying to do your work for you. I'm not here to please anybody. I'm never happy. I'm here to please the prayer. Who we call God. Hashimoon, you can't recall. That's who I want to please. No one else. I hope.
Amen. Thank you all. And thank you for hanging in there to the very last moment.